Near the golden sands of Jaisalmer lies Coldhara, a village frozen in time, abandoned yet eerily alive in memory. The wind sweeps across its deserted streets, carrying whispers that no one can fully hear, and the ruins stand as silent witnesses to a story of prosperity, fear, and sudden desertion. Coldhara was founded in the early 1800s by the Palaiwal Brahmins, a community known for their wealth, scholarship, and devotion. The village thrived in the harsh desert, a jewel of organization and culture in the vast expanse of sand. Homes were built from sandstone, sturdy and intricately carved. Courtyards flourished with wells, gardens, and spaces for prayer. Temples, adorned with statues and carvings, stood at the heart of the village, where daily rituals and festivals brought the community together. Markets bustled with trade. Children ran through narrow lanes laughing, and the aroma of spices, incense, and cooking fires filled the air. The people of Coldhara were proud, prosperous, and resilient. They carved a life out of the unforgiving desert, balancing devotion, tradition, and commerce. Life seemed eternal in the village, unyielding as the stones of its houses and the sand surrounding it. Yet even in the harshest deserts, shadows can grow. And in Coldhara, the shadow came in the form of the local ruler, a powerful, oppressive man whose demands became unbearable. Legend says that the ruler desired the village's wealth, its women, and its obedience. He imposed taxes heavier than the land could bear. He threatened families. He sought to claim what was not his. Fear spread through the streets like fire across dry grass. The villagers debated, prayed, and planned, but the power of one man seemed impossible to resist. Then, one night, the decision was made. The villagers would leave. Not slowly, not in waves, not over weeks. They would vanish in a single night, leaving everything behind. Their homes, their temples, their wells, all abandoned, all silent. But before leaving, they placed a curse. It is said that the Palaiwal Brahmins invoked a powerful vow, a magic woven from faith, fear, and desperation. No soul would ever live in Coldhara again. Anyone who dared settle in the village would face misfortune, calamity, or the wrath of the unseen. And so they left, walking into the desert under the cover of darkness, carrying only what they could bear, leaving their wealth, their animals, and their possessions behind. By dawn, Coldhara was empty, the streets silent, the homes still, the wells echoing the footsteps of the departed. The desert swallowed their retreating figures, and a curse was left in their wake. What followed was strange, even by desert standards. Travelers reported that attempts to inhabit Coldhara failed mysteriously. Structures collapsed inexplicably. Water dried from wells. Fires would not light. Livestock refused to enter the village. Over time, the desert began reclaiming the streets. Sand drifted into homes, filling courtyards. Wind swept across empty lanes. The village became a ghost, not just in legend, but in appearance. Visitors today report an unnerving sense of being watched. Even in the bright daylight, the silence is heavy, oppressive. Shadows stretch too long. The wind carries a sound like murmured speech, a chorus of voices half heard, warning the living to leave. Some explorers claim that in certain lanes, they feel sudden temperature drops, cold enough to make breath visible in the desert sun. Footsteps echo behind them when no one is near. Doors creak without wind. Stones shift under unseen pressure. Whispers rise from wells, carrying words that vanish when approached. One account tells of a lone traveler, drawn to the village by curiosity and tales of its curse. He entered as the sun began to set. The air shifted immediately. His footsteps on the stone lanes were answered by echoes that did not match his own. A faint whisper called his name. When he turned, the streets were empty. He pressed on, heart pounding, and past abandoned houses where curtains swayed, though no breeze stirred them. By nightfall, he fled, swearing never to return. Yet even miles away, he reported feeling a presence following him, a silent observer in the desert behind him. Another tale speaks of researchers staying overnight to document the ruins. They recorded fluctuations in temperature, strange murmurs, and fleeting shadows on cameras. One member reported a figure standing in the distance, pale and blurred, watching from the courtyard of a collapsed home. When approached, the figure vanished. Attempts to capture it on video or photograph proved impossible, yet all witnesses felt its gaze, lingering like a memory etched in the stone. The curse of Kuldhara has become more than legend. It shapes the behavior of those nearby. Villagers avoid the ruins at dusk. Travelers are warned repeatedly. Tour guides tell of sudden panic attacks, nausea, and disorientation in those who stray too far. Some speak of lights flickering inside empty homes, of music from no source, of shadows that refuse to be explained by sunlight or wind. Kuldhara is a place suspended between past and present. The desert moves around it, sand reclaiming streets, wind eroding walls. Yet the village itself remains intact enough to recall its history, prosperous families, vibrant markets, laughter and devotion before the night they vanished. The contrast is unnerving. Life frozen in time, yet alive with the echo of what once was. The village stands as a testament to human resilience, to desperation, and to the power of legend. Its streets are empty, yet full of story. Its temples are silent, yet echo the prayers of those long gone. And the curse, whether real or imagined, leaves a presence that even centuries cannot erase. Kuldhara is not merely abandoned. It is haunted, not only by whispers of the past, but by the tension between memory and imagination, between fear and wonder. To enter its streets is to step into history and into myth, to witness what remains when a people vanish overnight, leaving only silence, stone, and a curse carried by the wind. What is Kuldhara? A prosperous village lost to oppression? A ghost town shaped by human despair? Or a place where the living brush against the unseen, where every shadow and whisper carries the weight of a vanished civilization? The answer depends on who dares to walk its deserted streets, where every stone remembers, and every gust of wind speaks of the night the village disappeared. Even in the harsh daylight, Kuldhara feels different. There is a weight in the air, subtle at first, like the calm before a desert storm. The wind moves across the deserted streets, carrying an odd chill. Visitors often speak of that first moment, the instant they step through the crumbling gates, when a shiver travels down the spine. Something is watching, though no one can see it. The villagers may have left, but some insist their presence never truly departed. Shadows seem to linger in corners longer than they should. Footsteps echo from narrow alleys, slow and deliberate, as if someone is pacing behind you. The sound of sandals against stone repeats, but when turned to look, the streets are empty, silent except for the whisper of the wind. Many travelers report hearing voices, low murmurs, soft whispers, almost human, yet distorted. One visitor claimed he heard someone calling his name from inside a collapsed home. He paused, heart hammering, staring at the open doorway. No one appeared. The sound persisted, just beyond comprehension, like a memory trying to speak through the dust and stones. Even the animals sense it. Camels refuse to step into the village. Birds circle overhead, never resting. Dogs howl at unseen corners, their ears flat, tail stiff. The desert itself seems to recoil, sands drifting into streets that were once paved, covering thresholds and courtyards as if sealing the village from intruders. Some of the most chilling accounts comes from solo travelers who explore at dusk. One young man, drawn by curiosity and the village's dark legend, entered as the sun began to dip behind the dunes. He walked through streets littered with sand and broken stones, past houses with doorways like gaping mouths. The air grew colder with each step. Shadows stretched and twisted. Then he heard them, footsteps following his own, soft but deliberate, pace matching his. He spun around, No one was there. The footsteps stopped, only to start again from a different direction. By the time he exited the village, he was trembling, certain that something had walked behind him, unseen. Others speak of sudden temperature drops. One group of researchers recorded readings as they moved through cold aura. In the midday sun, the desert should have radiated heat. Yet inside the village, their instruments detected temperatures 30 to 40 degrees lower than the surrounding sands. In certain lanes, thermometers would fluctuate erratically. Some scientists tried to dismiss it as faulty equipment, but even their own skin prickled with a cold that had no source, a cold that felt deliberate. Whispers are common in these encounters. Visitors describe voices speaking words they cannot understand, sometimes in an old dialect of Hindi, sometimes in sounds that are not human. They are fleeting, vanishing when approached. Doors creak in empty homes, and the rustle of unseen clothing echoes through courtyards. A single stone may topple for no reason, or a well cover may shift, revealing darkness that seems deeper than the desert itself. Some encounters are more visual. A lone traveler recounted seeing figures in traditional attire, men in turbans, women in saris, walking slowly through courtyards, vanishing as he drew closer. One man swore he glimpsed a child running through the lanes, laughing, only to disappear into a wall of sand. Shadows seemed to take on shapes, stretching like living things, then collapsing back into darkness. Cameras, when used, capture fleeting images. A dark blur across an alleyway, a faint outline at the edge of the frame, movement that cannot be reproduced or explained. One of the most famous stories involves a couple exploring the central temple. They stepped inside, drawn by curiosity, when the doors slammed shut behind them. The wind was still. The heavy sandstone walls should have absorbed any noise. The couple ran to open the doors, but they would not budge. Whispers filled the room, indistinct but insistent. A faint glow seemed to emanate from the altar, flickering, as if shadows themselves were alive. Only after an hour, when exhaustion and panic overtook them, did the doors release. They fled the village immediately, leaving cameras, backpacks, and even shoes behind. The curse, if legend is to be believed, still lingers. Locals claim that anyone who dares to stay overnight will feel watched, will hear voices, or will experience sudden misfortune. Some stories speak of visitors disappearing for hours, only to be found wandering outside the village, dazed and incoherent. Others recount people becoming ill, developing sudden fevers, or falling into panic attacks after brief visits. Kuldhara's ruins themselves seem to respond to intruders. The alignment of stones, the narrowness of lanes, the steep inclines, all are designed for life in the desert, yet they appear uncanny when deserted. Walls seem to bend subtly, windows seem to follow movement, and corners appear darker than physics allows. Courtyards echo footsteps, even when no one is near. Wells seem to whisper, faint murmurs rising from their depths. Those who listen too long claim they hear more than whispers. They hear conversations, laughter, cries, and prayers from centuries past. Even during the day, the village has a way of unsettling the mind. A single stray wind can carry the sound of bells, faintly ringing from the central temple, though no bell remains. Dust rises in patterns that resemble figures walking. Shadows shift unnaturally as the sun passes overhead. Travelers describe a feeling of being watched, as though the eyes of the vanished villagers still roam the lanes, observing anyone who dares enter. The psychological effect is profound. Many visitors report nausea, headaches, and sudden panic. Even skeptics feel a creeping unease, an instinctive fear that cannot be rationalized. Some leave the village laughing it off, claiming imagination, but in private, they admit to the feeling of being followed, of unseen eyes upon them. The desert itself seems to enforce the curse. Sand drifts cover entrances, obscure thresholds, fill courtyards. The terrain shifts subtly, disorienting intruders. Travelers find themselves walking in circles, unable to retrace their steps. Some speak of glimpsing light where none should be, of shadows moving independently of the sun, of paths leading to nowhere. Cold horror is both silent and alive. Its emptiness amplifies every sound. The crunch of sand beneath a footstep, the whistle of the wind through a doorway, the soft rustle of an unseen presence. Every object, from broken pottery to the carved doorframes, seems charged with memory, with the energy of those who vanished in one night. Visitors report fleeting sensations, cold fingers brushing shoulders, sudden pressure on the chest, or a hand that vanishes when grabbed. Some claim they feel a heartbeat in the walls themselves. Others say that in quiet moments, they can hear children laughing or women singing in the empty lanes. All agree on one thing: the village is not empty. Something remains, something ancient, something patient, waiting. By evening, when the desert sun sets behind the dunes, cold horror becomes almost unbearable. Shadows grow longer than they should. The air grows heavy. Wind carries whispers from multiple directions, voices overlapping, calling, warning, inviting, and threatening. Figures appear at the periphery of vision, then vanish when looked at directly. Cold spots pierce the heat of the desert twilight. The atmosphere thickens as though the village itself is holding its breath, preparing for the night to awaken. Many believe that the curse is active precisely because of these hauntings. Some say that Sinkia's magic, Bangar's wrath, or the village's final prayer before leaving all contain a similar intent: to protect what is gone, to punish those who disturb it, to ensure the village remains untouched. Cold horror is a monument not just to life lost but to vigilance, a place where the past resists the present and memory is enforced through fear. Explorers who ignore warnings often find themselves disoriented, panicked, or physically affected. Footsteps behind them quicken even when alone. Shadows stretch unnaturally. Doors slam, windows rattle, and wells seem to call. Visitors leave shaken, some refusing ever to speak of what they saw, some returning multiple times, unable to resist the pull of a place that exists simultaneously in history and legend, reality and imagination. Cold horror is not merely haunted. It is alive in a way that science struggles to measure. It preserves fear, memory, and absence. It reminds every visitor of the fragility of life and the permanence of departure. The village watches, it waits, and in every shadow, in every whisper, it reminds the living that some places are never truly abandoned, some stories never fully told, and some curses are patient enough to endure centuries. By the modern era, cold horror had become more than a village abandoned in legend. It was a subject of study, a curiosity for travelers, and a focus for those seeking the unseen. Scholars, archaeologists, and paranormal investigators arrived, each hoping to uncover the truth behind the curse, the disappearance, and the whispers that seemed to linger centuries later. The ruins themselves tell a story. Houses remain intact enough to indicate the lives that once thrived there. Doorways, thresholds, and courtyards speak of daily life, yet they also hint at abrupt departure. Artifacts remain, scattered as though inhabitants vanished mid-activity. Broken pottery, water jars, ceremonial items, and personal belongings. Some wells still contain water, though thick with sand and desert dust. Temples stand, their altars empty, but carved statues intact. It is a village frozen, preserved not by care, but by the weight of absence. Archaeologists meticulously mapped the streets. They noted that the layout of Cold horror, compact lanes, narrow alleys, central courtyards, was designed for community, defense, and efficiency in the desert. But when empty, the same streets become disorienting. Walls appear to bend, courtyards echo footsteps, and alleyways loop in ways that seem unnatural. Researchers describe a sense of spatial distortion, as though the village itself resists being fully explored. Scientific analysis has attempted to explain the haunting. Temperature fluctuations are sometimes attributed to the thick sandstone walls, which trap cool air in shadowed corridors. Wind patterns can produce echoes that mimic footsteps or whispers. Human psychology, too, plays a role. Visitors aware of the legend are predisposed to fear, imagination amplifying every creak, draft, and shadow. Yet some phenomena resist explanation. Lights flicker where no electricity exists. Objects sometimes move slightly between observations. Audio recorders occasionally capture faint murmurs. Cameras record blurred figures in empty streets, shadows that vanish when approached. Paranormal investigators describe experiences beyond rational explanation. One team set up equipment to monitor the village overnight. Thermometers recorded sudden drops in temperature of over 20 degrees. Audio sensors captured whispers in multiple languages, some resembling Hindi dialects, some indecipherable. Cameras showed faint outlines of figures walking in courtyards, only visible in infrared. One investigator, alone in a lane, felt hands brush his shoulder. When he turned, nothing was there. Others reported seeing the silhouette of a child running across a courtyard, disappearing into thin air. Many believe the curse placed by the villagers remains active. The Palaiwal Brahmins, according to legend, vowed that no soul would settle in Kuldhara again. Whether through magic, faith, or collective memory, the effect persists. Travelers report disorientation, panic, sudden chills, and even illness. Some are compelled to flee after hours of exploring. Others leave immediately, citing an overwhelming sense of being watched. Locals, still living in surrounding villages, continue to perform small rituals. Offerings at the periphery, prayers for protection, and stories repeated to warn the curious. Despite modern study, Kuldhara resists full understanding. It is at once a historical site, a ghost village, and a psychological enigma. Visitors describe the same phenomenon across generations. Shadows where none should exist. Whispers in abandoned streets, sensations of eyes following them, the weight of the past pressing on the present. Even skeptics cannot deny a palpable tension in the air, a sense of life where no life remains. Cultural and cinematic interpretations have added layers to Kuldhara's legacy. Films and documentaries depict the abandoned streets, the sudden disappearance, and the lingering curse. Writers explore the intersection of history, myth, and fear. Anthropologists use Kuldhara as a case study in folklore, belief, and the power of legend. The village has become a symbol, a narrative that bridges fact and imagination, past and present. Yet there is also reflection on human experience. Kuldhara prompts questions about fear, memory, and absence. What does it mean for a place to be haunted? Is it spirits, the echoes of history, or the human mind reacting to emptiness? The deserted streets, the shifting shadows, the whispers, and the sudden chills are all part of a broader story. What about how memory and legend shape perception? How history imprints itself on the environment, and how absence itself can feel alive? The legacy of Kuldhara is also a reminder of resilience and desperation. The Palaiwal Brahmins left not out of whim, but necessity, fleeing oppression in one night. Their departure and the curse they invoked were acts of defiance, survival, and protection. The village, abandoned yet preserved by myth, stands as a testament to human agency in the face of power and fear. The ruins are a warning, a memorial, and a story carried forward through time. Visitors leave Kuldhara with impressions they cannot easily articulate. Some report being followed even after leaving. Dreams carry fragments of the village. Anxiety, unease, or fascination lingers. Some attempt rational explanations. Others accept the village as it is, a threshold between the visible and invisible, history and legend, reality and imagination. Kuldhara is not merely a ghost village. It is an experience, a psychological space, a cultural artifact, and a story. It preserves the memory of those who vanished, the power of the curse, and the persistence of fear. Its empty streets echo with both history and imagination. Its walls bear silent witness, and its legacy continues to draw the curious, the brave, and the fearful. When the desert sun dips below the dunes and shadows stretch across abandoned streets, cold horror awakens in memory and myth. Whispers rise from wells, shadows stretch unnaturally, and unseen presences seem to move just beyond sight. The curse, the legend, the echo of the vanished Palaiwal Brahmins all endure. The village waits patiently, unchanging yet alive in its silence, ensuring that the story of abandonment, fear, and unresolved history is never forgotten. Cold horror is eternal. It is haunted, it is remembered, it is feared. And as long as people tell its story, as long as its ruins endure, the village remains. A bridge between past and present, between memory and legend, between life and absence.